All right. I lost some of my previous files, but should be clear on the video, but I think I was in the middle of this problem where I have y squared minus 6y minus 16. So I'm letting the problem talk to me again. So I'm looking for factors of 16 because that's my back number. And those are like 1 times 16, 2 times 8, 4 times 4. This time, I look at my sign right here, and they're going to subtract. Okay, so factors of 16, that subtract, okay, to make my middle number, okay, to make 6, okay, because that's my middle number. So it looks like 2 and 8 will subtract to make 6. So I make my parentheses. Y is my first variable, so I put it in both, and I chose 2 and 8. It doesn't matter which one you put in front, which one you put in back, as long as a factor gets each one. And when I subtract, okay, to make these factors, this is what's important. You're going to use B's sign with the larger factor and the opposite sign for the smaller. So since I see a subtraction here in the middle, it's going to go with my bigger number, that's my 8, and then I use the opposite sign on the 2. So up above, when I added, they both get the middle sign. Down here, they get opposite signs, and the bigger number gets that minus. And a quick FOIL, I'm doing it in my head. First times first is y squared. Outsides is negative 8y. Insides is positive 2y. And last would be negative 16. When I simplify that, I get y squared minus 6y minus 16. So there's my factors. Okay, now I said I was going back and I wanted to look at these other two. And one of the reasons is they get a little more complicated if there's a number on front. So back up here, I'm going to add my second example is 3x squared minus 8x plus 4. Okay, because I see that I have this 3 in front of the x squared, my factoring is not as easy as it was before, okay? Because now what I need to do is I have to take my 3 times my 4, okay? 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, so I take 12. Now I want factors of 12. So notice it's not the back number of 4, but this time it's factors of 12. So 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. I think that's all I have. Okay. Now, I'm going to do this one a little bit different because this is going to help me when I write my factors. I'm going to make a box, okay? I'm going to put my first term of 3x squared in my first box, and I'm going to put a 4, that positive 4, in my back box, okay? So I still want factors, but not of 4 this time, factors of 12, that add, same thing here, to make 8. So which of those factors up there add to make 8? Well, I think 2 and 6 will add to make 8. But I need to be careful. I need them to add to make negative 8. So I want 1 to be a negative 6x, and I want 1 to be a negative 2x, okay, because those will add to make 8, that negative 8. I put them in this box because when that front number is there, that factoring is not as easy as it was before. Okay, so this is how I'm going to find my factors to put in my parentheses now. First, I'm going to go and I'm looking in my first column, and I say, what's the GCF? What's the most I can factor out of both of those? Not much. It looks like it's just the x. Okay, second column. I look at there and I say, what's the most I can factor out? And another thing I want to really stress here, whatever the sign is on the very first one, the top one there, you want to use that sign. So negative 6x and 4. Well, they're both even, so I think I can do a 2. And because the top one's negative, I'm going to pull out negative 2. Oops, didn't go back to my pen. Negative 2. Okay. Now I'm going to go across my rows and do the same thing. So now I go across this row. What can I factor out of 3x squared and negative 6x? Always the front term is what decides the sign. So I have a positive. I'm going to keep it positive. It looks like I could do a 3x out of both. So that's going to be over here. Now on my second row, I have a negative 2x and a 4. I think the most I can pull out is 2. But because the front has a negative 2, I'm going to pull a negative 2. Okay? All right. What's across the top is one of your factors, x minus 2. What's going down here is your second factor, 3x minus 2. Okay? If it happened to be a positive, make sure you keep the plus. Okay? There's my factors. If you FOIL that back out, we'll get 3x squared minus 2x minus 6x plus 4, and that will simplify to 3x squared minus 8x plus 4. Okay, so let's do another one of them when we have the minus, like we see down at the bottom. And this method will take care of all your signs, so you don't have to really worry too much if you do this box method with these harder ones. All right, so on my second one down here, I'm going to do a 3x squared plus a 2x minus 8. Okay, this minus 8 tells me I'm going to subtract, right? So I'm still going to do my box. So I put my first term in the first box. I put my last term in the last box with its sign. And now it's those two numbers I need to multiply together. So 3 times 8 is 24. 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. I'm going to mess myself up here when I do my numbers. The key on this one is I need to subtract to make 2. Because I see this subtraction right here, I have to subtract to make that middle 2. It looks like I'm going to have to go with the 4 and the 6. Okay, so I'm going to do a 4x and a 6x. And what signs will make it a positive 2? So I think I need a positive 6 and a negative 4. Okay, that would make positive 6, negative 4. That'll make positive 2x. All right, here we go on our columns first. 3x squared and 6x. What can I factor out of both? I think I can pull out a 3 and an x. My second column, I have a negative 4x and a negative 8. I can factor out a 4, and I want it to be negative because my top one is negative. Okay, going across now, okay? 3x squared and negative 4x. The only thing I see in common is an x, and that first term's positive, so I'm keeping it positive. On the second one, I'm going to factor out, let's see, positive 6x minus 8. I can factor out a 2, and because my first term is positive, I'm going to keep it positive 2. I like that positive on there because it's going to remind me later. I'm ready for my factors. Here's my first one, 3x minus 4, and here's my second factor, x plus 2. All right, so those are a little bit harder factoring, but hopefully that box method will make it a little bit easier and keep you sorted out so you can get your factors. And again, if you want to check it, FOIL it back to see what you need to get. All right, one more thing. Sometimes you have more than 3 terms. The most common you are going to find is the 2 or 3 terms, but occasionally you have 4 terms, or possibly more, okay? I'm just kind of, again, this is more algebra review for you now, more than what you'll probably encounter in geometry, okay? Look for a GCF to factor out of all terms, because that's how we always start all of our factoring, is we check for it. 6x cubed y minus 18x squared y squared plus 9xy cubed minus 15xy to the fourth. Okay, remember, I'm making up these problems for you just to give these examples so you can see this. You might not encounter these. All right, so I look first at all 4 terms this time. Is there a common number that I could divide all of them by? I think 3 is my common number. I have 3 x's on the first, 2 on the second, 1 on the third, and 1 on the last. So I think I can pull 1x, always the fewest number, out. I have 1 y on the first, 2 y's on the second, 3 y's on the third, and 4 y's on the fourth. I can't think the smallest number is 1, so I'm going to factor out 3xy out of all of them. So my first term, 6 divided by 3 is 2. X cubed divided by x, that's 3 x's. I take 1 out, I'm left with 2. Y divided by y, they cancel. Second term, negative 18 divided by 3 is negative 6. X squared divided by x leaves me 1x. Y squared divided by y leaves me 1y. Third term, 9 divided by 3 is positive 3. X divided by x cancels. Y cubed divided by y, that's 3 minus the 1, is left with 2, y squared. And finally, negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. X divided by x is, there is no x. And y to the fourth divided by y, so 4y's minus the 1y will leave us 3y's. Okay, and that's the best we can do with that. Obviously, that's got a lot more work to do something with it, but until we're in higher math and we have more methods to do, that's how we would leave it, but it can be factored. All right, the last method for 4 terms that is a little more common and something you may see is to factor by grouping. Okay, so I'm going to give you our example. 6x cubed plus 15x squared minus 14x minus 35. Okay, when I look at all four of those terms, I definitely do not have a number I can factor out of all four of them. So that one's kind of gone. But I notice that if I group them on the first two, they have some common number and variable. And the back two, and include that sign is so important, I see a common factor as well. So I'm going to start with the first parentheses, 6x cubed plus 15x squared. Both of those I can factor out of 3. And there's 3 x's on the first, 2 on the second, so I can pull out the smallest number, which is x squared. Okay, what are my leftovers? 6 divided by 3 is 2. X cubed divided by x squared still leaves me with an x. 15 divided by 3 is positive 5. X squared divided by x, they're gone. Okay, now I'm going to go to my second set of terms there. My second parentheses, negative 14, negative 35. I can factor out a negative 7. So I'm going to factor out the negative 7, and I leave my leftovers. Negative 14x divided by negative 7 is positive 2x. Negative 35 divided by negative 7 is positive 5. Okay, so I was able to factor some things out. Now, again, a little bit more into algebra than what we often do in geometry, but I want to kind of point this out. This is one term. This is one term. Yeah, there's a number outside in a parenthesis, but it's technically one term. Is there anything common between these two terms? Is there a GCF? And I'm going to kind of do a side note. If I told you 3x squared minus 7y, 3x squared y minus 7y, you'd say, hey, I can factor out that y and leave 3x squared minus 7, okay? This is kind of the same thing. They both have this 2x plus 5. I can factor that out. So I put a parenthesis of 2x plus 5. I factor it out. I want my leftovers. On the first term, my leftover is 3x squared. On my second term, my leftover is minus 7. And I factored again. So really those 4 terms that I started with factored down to this 2 binomials. Again, not something you'll see a lot in geometry, but just kind of want to throw out this if you're trying to just brush up on your factoring. This is a method or something you might find. All right, I'm making this more as, like I said, just something to help you if you're stuck on factoring, to give you some ideas, to give you some thoughts. Run through it as many times as you need. Ask me questions. Let me know if I can help you in some way.